Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Tolin. I am a mind body practitioner, and I help people recover from chronic fatigue, chronic pain, and other symptoms that are caused by the brain and nervous system. Today, I'm excited to be speaking with Matt Sibert, who's overcome post-COVID symptoms as well as other post-viral symptoms that were diagnosed as Epstein-Barr. When Matt first reached out to me about 6 months ago, he had all kinds of different symptoms moving around his body. That tends to be a hallmark of mind-body symptoms. He really dove into the healing work and has a wonderful recovery story to share today. So I'm excited to speak with him. So Matt, thank you so much for being here to share your story.
Hey, Rebecca, I'm happy to be on board to talk to you today and talk about my journey. It's been quite a journey since August when I got COVID initially.
Yeah. So walk us back a little bit to what happened with COVID, kind of in the acute phase, and then how the symptoms continued after that.
Yeah, so I got COVID in the end of August and it was bad, like 47 years old. So I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And so like for the first few days, my whole body was literally like tremoring, like it was like a neurological thing or something. And I couldn't sleep and pouring sweat. I lost 30 pounds in the first month and just these tremors wouldn't go away. And the sweating and the fatigue was just terrible. Like I could barely work and I was scared. And it like, I grew up in a tough neighborhood in Chicago. I've seen things that people wouldn't even imagine, but this was the most scared I've ever been. Like I thought I was going to die. And I think that triggered like some of the rage and fear and just all the emotions came up and it just started making it worse. And I was just like shaking in my bed and just pouring sweat. It was very scary for like a long period of time there.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely terrifying. And I mean, there's nothing that is going to threaten the nervous system more than actually thinking your survival is at risk and you don't know what's going on with this virus. And as we know, fear fuels it. But of course, you were in the acute phase. So this is real physical symptoms caused by a physical cause. So then what happened after that subsided? And with the acute COVID, then did you feel like you completely recovered at some point, or did the symptoms just kind of drag on?
Yeah, it was dragging on. It got a little bit better, but it was still like, oh my God, are these tremors ever going to go away? Like it was terrible for the first week where it was like Parkinson's or worse, like just tear my whole body. And then I'm like, holy shit, am I going to be like this for the rest of my life? And I just, my mind is racing. But then after the first week, it died down a bit, but it was still terrible. And so thank God at the time I was talking to a couple of friends of mine that had back pain issues. And I told them about Dr. John Sarno's book, Healing Back Pain, which helped my back pain like 20 years ago. And so Dr. Sarno, I always say is my hero. Like if somebody asks who your hero is, I say Dr. John Sarno. And so, for the people that are watching that don't know who he is, he's a pioneer in mind-body medicine. And so I was telling my friends to get this book for their back pain. And then a light went off in my head, like maybe these symptoms I'm having are psychosomatic and due to the rage and the stress and the scaredness that I was going through. And so I was like, man, let me get Dr. Sarno's books, a couple of his books on Amazon, just to see if it'll help the symptoms. And so I got his Divided Mind and Mind Body prescription books and read through those like voraciously because I wanted to get better. And within 2 days of reading those books, I was at least 60% better than I was with. So I knew then, I was like, okay, this is psychosomatic. These tremors I'm having is fear and rage and stress that's causing these tremors and the fatigue. And so it did get much better, but it wasn't all the way better. And then in his book, he talks about, well, if you're just not all the way better from reading the book, you might need to talk to a therapist. And so I just started Googling around and I found your story somehow online talking about the fatigue and the Epstein-Barr and the things that you've gone through. And it was like a long journey for you, seeing all these different doctors. And I had been doing the same thing, like getting IVs and taking all kinds of supplements. And I had like 50, 60 supplements a day I was taking. It was crazy, just wanting to get better,
Yes.
And I found your story and I was like, I really connect with this story because she's going through the same things that I'm going through, basically, with the fatigue. And so I reached out to you at that point, and then the rest is history.
Wow, Matt, first of all, I'm so blown away that you were able to make that connection yourself to these, long COVID symptoms and Sarno's work. Of course, Sarno was never around in the COVID era, and yet what he was speaking to is so relevant for post-COVID symptoms, especially when there isn't tissue damage like in the heart or lungs. And I love you were able to make that connection because you had healed from back pain earlier. And just from reading the book, the symptoms resolved 60%. That's such evidence that it's generated by the brain and nervous system, right? And then you must have felt safer. Like, okay, now I know what's happening. Especially
because it happened overnight, basically, like within a day or two. I was like way better after reading the book. So I'm like, I know this is psychosomatic. And and then we connected at that point, and I started working with you like once a week or every other week. We were doing sessions, and I would say within like 5 or 6 sessions, I was 95% better because you were able to just walk me through things, and the way your perspective on things, sometimes like, I never thought of it like that, or you'll just remind me of things that I should be doing that I forgot about. Like, oh yeah, why am I not doing that? And then it works. like oh yeah, like if I just remember to do this, it works. And my biggest issue is like, and I'm still resolving these, but it's much better, is the symptoms keep hopping around. Like I'll get headaches or back pain, and then it goes here, then it goes tennis elbow. But I know that it's psychosomatic, and I know that you're always there for me if I need to call you and work through something. So it's like a good, something to have if I need on the side. But from the day that I called you and started working with you till today, I'm 95, 99% better and back at work. And I got 3 companies. I'm really busy. I got a lot of employees, and thank God they when I was sick, they were able to keep running things when I was sick. And now I'm back at it, and it feels great just to be back productive again and not just laying around, scared and tired all the time.
Of course. Well, you are my champion because you just really dove into the work. You did so much on your own, and you recognized when we need a little support, because sometimes we have blind spots and we need someone just, to hold space for the emotions. But walking it back a little bit so people have a sense. So what were like the ongoing symptoms you had after you felt you had overcome the virus? And about how long did that impact you before you had, where you feel you are now?
Like I was still having tremors throughout my body, like in my chest and my legs, but it was getting better and better as we started talking. It got much better, but it would still like intermittently come back. But now it's completely 100% gone. And then I had a lot of fatigue issues. It was terrible. And then I went to a doctor, they did the blood test, and they said I had Epstein-Barr virus. And I didn't know what that was. So, I mean, I'd heard of it before, but so it got me like worried. And then we had a session, and I told you, oh, the doctor, tells me I have Epstein-Barr. And then you walked me through your philosophy on it. And you showed me like scientific proof as well about Epstein-Barr and the blood test and why they're not accurate and things of that nature. And it just made me not worry about it anymore and just go on with my life and heal myself. And so that really helped with the fatigue, like knowing that there's different ways of looking at things, and you just got to surround yourself with people like you that know the right information, because you basically took me off the ledge. Like when I had got the diagnosis, I was like, oh no, and just scared and nervous, and I got to get this out of me, or get this virus out of me. But it's just not the case. And I feel much better now.
It just shows how knowledge that helps calm fear is so powerful, and it literally causes shifts in the brain, the nervous system, and the body. So, I can get on my soapbox about Epstein-Barr because doctors told me that was the main cause of my symptoms for 13 years of chronic fatigue syndrome. And I was so scared of this virus. But I recovered anyway. And then later, when I've gone on to do research, I've found scientific studies that actually show, well, it's a known fact that up to 95% of adults have Epstein-Barr in their system. Yeah. But there's a lot of people, even with high titers, that have no symptoms at all. So I've actually come to hypothesize that it's an incidental finding, just like John Sarno talked about degenerative disc being an incidental finding. I mean, there is an acute phase of Epstein-Barr, which is mononucleosis, and that will cause strong symptoms. But after the fact, it just lays dormant in your system. And Howard Schubiner has confirmed that with me, that these are just harmless antibodies floating around your system and nothing to be worried about.
Yeah, and the doctor sees it in the blood test and he means well, he's a great guy, but he doesn't understand that. And he's like, look, you got Epstein-Barr, it shows on these titers or whatever. And so, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And I believe that 100%. And of course I had fatigue. I almost died and I lost 30 pounds in a month. So of course I was fatigued. That's the way I look at it now. And now I'm, it was August and, months ago, but now I'm feeling much better. It just takes time sometimes, I guess, to heal through these things.
Exactly. Yeah, because once the acute virus passes, then you're working with the brain, which is still perpetuating the symptoms in that heightened state of alert. So I'm curious specifically what you did that helped you, because people always want to know what practices really helped you. What were you doing on a daily basis that allowed you to recover?
Yeah, I think there was two things in addition to working with you weekly. Well, you gave me some meditations. So in between our weekly calls, I worked on the meditations that you gave me. And then also I'm really big into Wim Hof breathing techniques. And he has an app and he's the Iceman guy. People that are watching, he goes into like icy waters and he does these breathing techniques and he's just an incredible guy. And that really helped a lot too. Just calming my nervous system down by doing the deep breathing and holding my breath retention and doing all that. And then I also bought a far infrared sauna and was doing that like every day for like 20, 30 minutes. And then as soon as I was done with the sauna, I would get into a cold bath. So similar to what Wim Hof does. And so that was good. And I do the sauna maybe once a week now. So I'm not doing it every day anymore, but I probably will go through phases with that. And then the Curable app was really good too. And that it was like, I think it's like $70 for a year or something. It's well worth it. Like they have so many cool writing exercises and meditations that you can do in that app. And some of the writing exercises really get to the core of things, and they have me crying and stuff while I'm writing them and really releasing some of the things in the past, and so I recommend that Curable app and the Wim Hof, but number one, working with you for sure to tie it all together, because you just got to have somebody to talk to. Like sometimes you can't figure it all out by yourself. And so I'm a big proponent of coaching, and I'm a consultant myself. And you look at like the best athletes in the world, they all have coaches. Like you got to have somebody to bounce your ideas off of. And so, especially like I said, if you're stuck, like it's just a game changer to be able to talk to somebody that understands. And I told you before, like I worked with a medical doctor before I met you briefly that's expert in mind body, and he was great. But like when I connected with you, you had been through exactly what I was going through. So it was just mentally for me, it was a better connection. And so you just got to find somebody that understands what you're going through, I think.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Matt. So it's interesting because some of these things you mention, whether it's the breath work or we did somatic meditations together, they're really coming into the body in a safe way, because a lot of times when we have these symptoms, we just check out of the body. It's too dangerous to feel these scary sensations. So I'm curious what it was like for you doing. We did like some somatic tracking where you're tracking sensations in the body and also emotions in the body. How was that, and how did it kind of fit into your healing picture?
It was hard to do initially because everything that I was taught or like that I learned, at surviving growing up was ignore it, just push it down or whatever, And so doing the somatic tracking is the opposite of that. You focus in on the pain. And so it was hard for me to do that. But then once I did it and I started going through the meditations, it's so powerful. If you're going through pain, don't run away from it. Like, embrace the pain. It actually makes it better. It's counterintuitive, but it actually works though.
Yeah, Rumi has this quote, something like, call the pain into your arms where it can change. Because you're right, we want to push it away, but when you can embrace it, it's so powerful. And you really did some deep emotional work. And I give you so much credit because I think men in our culture are not supported for feeling emotions, especially. You mentioned some of the writing exercises you did through the Curable app, and then we did some emotional work together. So how important was that to your healing, really looking and feeling some of these underlying emotions?
Yeah, I think it was really important. And I need to do more of it, honestly. Even though I'm feeling better, I need to stay on track with that. Because like you said, like, I grew up tough in a tough neighborhood. We don't write things. I don't have a journal or write our feelings down. What are you talking about? Like, there's no feelings. What do you mean? Like, and so, yeah, like, it's like, but it's powerful. And like I told you, I cried when I was doing some of the written exercises, and but crying good tears too, like, not bad tears, like just releasing things. And so, I think it's really important to, if you're going through pain, to write out the emotions behind it. There's always a root cause behind the pain. And so these written exercises that you have and that the Curable app has, it really helps you just connect with that root cause. And then once you make the connection, the pain gets better. Like, it's just like how Dr. Sarno teaches as well.
Yeah, he was a big proponent of writing just about your emotions in this uncensored way. Are there any discoveries you could share with us that don't feel too personal, that you connected emotionally, or about some of your personality traits you developed from childhood that may have kind of fueled these symptoms?
Yeah, just like I tend to just not remember my past as much because there was a lot of trauma. It was very violent growing up in a tough neighborhood in Chicago, and I had to become something that I wasn't. And so sometimes I just like to forget it all because it's not who I am now. And so, but if you do that, you can't heal. You have to address the past and then move forward. And so it kind of, those exercises just forced me to go back into things that I forgot about. Like, oh yeah, wow, I went through that. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, and that too. Like, I just like pushed it all away. And sometimes you do have to do that work and just sit down and really embrace that pain and those experiences that you had that are traumatic, and not push it down and push it away. It just, for me, it doesn't work. Like, I was talking to my business partner, one of my partners, the other day, and he's British. He was in the military for 16 years. He was a commander, and he's like, oh man, I don't think about anything from the past. I just leave it. I just push it all down. And I'm like, because you're British, man.
Just carry on, right?
Yeah.
Be strong and carry
That's
on.
that British stiff upper lip or whatever.
Yeah, it is. The Brits have that stiff upper lip. And then we have the whole like macho culture where I think either way, it's discouraged to feel it. And in a way, you could look at it as Dr. Sarno's explanation of repressing emotion. It's a defense mechanism, right, to protect against feeling emotions that were too strong at the time. And so we do need the support to feel them, in little doses.
Yeah, even
right?
things that you might think are funny to you, but at the time they weren't. I grew up Catholic and was really strict Catholic growing up. And I can remember the nuns telling me I was going to go to hell and stuff like that. And I believed them. Like I thought I was going to hell. And that was so traumatic. Like I laugh about it now, but back then it was a lot of trauma because I literally believed them. I thought, oh man, I'm a terrible kid. I'm going to hell and I'm gonna burn in hell. Like that's like how traumatic is that for an 8, 9 year old?
It sounds terrifying, right? And you think that like the nuns would be your safe haven because you grew up in this very violent neighborhood. And I admire that you went back and looked at a lot of that because we can push down that stuff for a while, but then when there's some other traumatic or really stressful situation, like for you, long COVID, it's an invitation to go back into it and to resolve some stuff that's been down under the surface.
That's what the long COVID did. It brought everything up to the surface. And if I wouldn't have known about these things, I think I would still be sick now, or I might have died. Who knows? Like I would be really sick. Like it wouldn't have gotten better. I would have got probably worse. And so thank God that we can get this information out to the world because you don't have to suffer, people. Like you can figure it out. Like if you have long COVID, I'm pretty confident that it's psychosomatic if you're watching this. So you should really open your mind up and look into it because if you hold on to that, oh, I'm sick, it's just going to keep getting worse or it's not going to go away. And it's really mental. It's psychosomatic. Not that you're not sick, you are sick and it is physical, but the part that heals it is making that connection.
Absolutely. Of course, we're saying that these are real physical symptoms in the body, but there's all this neuroscience now that shows the brain and the nervous system learn this pattern. They become very hypervigilant and they just keep perpetuating it. And you're just a beautiful example of someone who recovered from long COVID. I know you said you're about 95% now because there's so many people struggling with this. And like if you hadn't known of Sarno, you could have gone down so many rabbit holes, and that's where people are now. And I so feel for them because they're told all these scary things by doctors and try lots of physical remedies that don't work. What would you really want people to know who have, post-viral symptoms, whether it's after COVID or Epstein-Barr or anything else?
I think it's important to try the mind-body work first, because I didn't make that connection right away, and I had IV drips and I was NED drips and I was on 50 different supplements and trying to get better. I had to get better. And like you said, I was going down all these rabbit holes. And so now if you're watching this and you see this, forget the supplements, forget the IVs, at least for now. Like start on the mental part first, the mind-body connection first. And I still take some supplements, but I'm doing like maybe 5 or 6 a day instead of like 50 different things. And so you don't have to stop doing IVs if you like doing that, if it makes you feel better, but it's more about the mind-body connection. Start with that first, and then you're going to realize if you do the work, it is work too. People don't think that you don't have to do work. Like this is work. Like it's not fun sometimes. Like most of the time it's not fun, but at the other end of it, it is fun because you feel better. Like I'm back at work now. Like I work as much hours as I want, where, 3 months ago, I had to work like 2-3 hours a day. By the time 11, 12 came around, I was exhausted. And so doing that work got me to this point now where I can just work whenever I want and not feel as like fatigued that I did before.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love how you worded that. It's like if you want to do other things like the sauna or take supplements just because you feel better, great. But that's not the heart of it. I mean, that's not the cause and it's not the cure. And actually, Howard Schubiner talks about the fact that so many of these other therapies work because they make people feel safe and cared for. And that calms the brain down. But it's a form of placebo effect. You want to go to the heart of it, right? Which is these underlying stressful emotions. And then all this misinformation we've gotten saying that we're saddled with these viruses forever and we can't recover. We have to correct that misperception because our nervous system is reacting to that.
But yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, you have to address the root cause first before you start going down all these rabbit holes. And so that's the number one thing that I would leave people, like, focus on the mind-body connection, because you'll be amazed. Like, and if you think that the long COVID is just never going to go away, you're going to get better. Trust me, like, you will. Like, if you just do the work. You got to do the work though. And it was like at my worst, when I was really sick, I was meditating like 4 hours a day and reading books, and like I wasn't working much all day. I was just doing deep breathing, meditating, reading books, working with you, like writing, journaling. Like, that was like my job. It was a full-time job to get better for a little while. Like, it was like a month or so where I was just all day, like, at it, getting better. And so, yeah, it's takes some time and work, but then once you do the work, you're going to look up one day. And that, we've talked about that before, like with the tremors. I look up one day, like, oh shit, I don't have the tremors anymore. And I forgot about those.
Yeah, that's how it always happens. It's like clients start talking to me about other things like relationships and work. And then I was like, what happened to the tremors, or what happened to the fatigue? And they're like, oh yeah, I guess it's not there. You just stop thinking about it, right?
Yeah. And that's another thing, people like, work through it. If you feel like you have the kind of personality that always needs to have drama or something wrong with you, like, work through that. And maybe I just am telling myself that right now too, because my life, like, growing up was so like filled with drama and excitement and stuff. And now that I'm more like, I'm older and I got businesses and it's like a more mundane life. Maybe there's something within me that like stirs things up just to make things happen, and so, yeah, like, I'm telling that to myself too, people.
Well, exactly. I'm so glad you brought up that point, because we have all these learned associations, and just stillness and quietness can be threatening if you haven't had that as a child, right? Because the brain just sort of likes consistency. It doesn't like change. So if something's really foreign, even if it's peace, that can actually feel threatening. And then we want to retrain our brain. And you were doing all kinds of different meditations, right? Some somatic meditation, some self-compassion.
Binaural beats.
Beats.
Hemispheric synchronization with the headphones, and the Wim Hof breathing. I was doing all kinds. Now I'm just doing the Wim Hof breathing every day, and then occasionally I do some of the meditations that you send me and the curable meditations. So it's like, you don't have to do 4 hours a day, people. Like, I do now.
Not for the rest of your life. No.
Yeah, I was just like wanting to get better so bad, and so I didn't have anything to do. I was too sick to go anywhere, so I was just laying there meditating.
Oh yeah, I had actually years like that where I couldn't work, and so I did a lot of meditation. And I think that's an important point. Is it's not just what we're doing, but how we're doing it. Because I know one of the things you and I have worked with is those personality traits, right? Like that hard driving, achieving, self-pressuring personality trait, which is very common with TMS. And being with ourselves and the symptoms, the fatigue, the sadness, whatever it is, without trying to make it go away, to learn to be with it. How did you work with that? It's some of the personality traits and learning to just sit with yourself as you are. Yeah,
I remember when I met you, I was like, I'm the poster boy for TMS, because all those traits you just described, that's me. And so it was really hard to, focus on the symptoms. And because I'm always the kind of person that just pushes it away, or just like, I got to get back to work. I don't have time for this, like, to be sick or whatever. And so to sit there and like embrace it and like not run away from it was really hard. But then once I started doing it, it got easier and it got better. And so you have to do that in order to get better. You can't push it away. You have to embrace the pain. Even when I moved to San Diego, I don't know what caused it, but I got tinnitus. Like the day that I moved here, my ears started ringing, and it got worse and worse. And my best friend is going blind, and he told me, just embrace it, man. It's part of you now. And as soon as I did that, the tinnitus got better. Like it's just amazing how if you just stop fighting things and pushing it away or fighting it and battling with it, instead embrace it as a part of you, and it just gets better. It's weird how that works.
That is so beautiful. And that's what I love about this work, because it really is about self-acceptance and self-compassion. And a lot of times I'll see people that say, I'm doing all the right things. I'm doing this, 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 and this. Why aren't I getting better? And it's because they're trying to push it away. They're trying to fight it. And
or
it's
even
not
trying to
easy.
Fix it. Like
trying to fix it.
Don't even try to fix it.
Just exactly. Just be with it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the irony. As soon as we just accept these symptoms, like, okay, this is just sensation in my body, then the brain calms down. It doesn't have to create the symptoms.
Yeah. And I remember like a few times talking with you, I just got to fix this. And you're like, no, you don't need to think like that. You need to be just embracing it, like we're saying. And so you have to shift mentally, and you have to be open-minded with these things. And thank God I've just was born with an open mind, I feel like. And so I'm not like, just entrenched in my ways to where I won't open my mind up and look at different ways of doing things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's led to your recovery. And now you're sharing this so you can open other minds, which I really appreciate, Matt. Is there anything else you'd like to share in closing with people who are struggling with these symptoms? And a lot of people think, oh, long COVID, it's different than back pain. It's different than headaches. It's different than neck pain.
Yeah, I think it's the same. Like when mine hit me, I remember saying, oh, my nervous system went haywire. And it was because of the fear. Like I was afraid I was going to die. And then I got angry. I was mad. Like I'm 47. I'm not ready to die. And I got so mad. And it's like, I haven't achieved half the things that I want to achieve yet. And I just got so mad and scared. And then it just made everything bubble up to the surface. And so, yeah, I would just reiterate that you just have to do the work and, have the right tools around you and the right people like Rebecca to help guide you through it all. And it was the best investment I could have ever made working with you. Like you could charge triple, quadruple more than what you charge, like, because who wouldn't? Like I would have done anything to get rid of these symptoms. So like, it's like you're doing great work out there, helping people out. And so I highly recommend just, doing the work. It's that simple. You can't just sit there and feel sorry for yourself, because there is a way out. There's a solution for it. And so it's just about rolling your sleeves up for a month or two and really getting nitty gritty and doing the work and writing out the things that are going to make you cry probably and feel feelings that maybe you don't want to feel. But once you get used to it and you embrace those feelings, especially the men that are watching this, like it's hard for us like to do these things. Like, and so I'm a tough guy, people. If if you saw me like fighting out there in the streets back in the day, but like I'm a loving person too in my heart, and I just want to help people.
Oh, Matt, I'm so glad that you're feeling so much better. You're really incredible. You inspire me too. And I so appreciate you sharing your story with other people.
Thank you. And thank you for your like true passion in what you do. And you're always there for me anytime I need anything. And so, and it's real. Like you can tell you really care about working with people and helping them through these issues. So it's been a blessing to meet you and work with you.
Thank you so much, Matt. And if you enjoyed this video, you can like it, send us a comment, subscribe to this channel so you can find out when I release other videos like this. I teach about the somatic tracking and writing exercises that Matt and I were talking about in an upcoming course I'll be teaching. You can find out more about that on my website, RebeccaTolin.com. There's also lots of free resources, blogs, videos, and a free somatic tracking meditation at RebeccaTolin.com.